found a bunker deep in the woods. Now something followed me home. You know that saying, some things are better left buried? Yeah, I didn't listen to that. Now I'm paying the price. I'm what people call a scavenger. Not the metal detector on a beach kind. No, I go for the real stuff. Abandoned buildings, forgotten places. Things people don't want to touch anymore. Most of the time, it's harmless. I've pulled out old coins, broken machinery, even a rusted safe once. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you find a place nobody's raided yet. That's the gold mine. That's how I ended up at the bunker. It was just outside of a town that's mostly dead now. Population, maybe 50, tops. The kind of place you drive through without a second glance. But the guy I met at a bar there, more of a shack that sold beer, if we're being honest, told me about this bunker. Cold War era, he slurred, staring into his glass like he wasn't sure if he believed himself. Government project. Military, maybe. But the story is, anyone who goes in don't come out the same. I laughed it off at the time, but when he mentioned stash, my ears perked up. Weapons. Maybe valuable tech. Hell, maybe gold bars. Didn't want to look myself, he added. Gives me the creeps. But you look like the type who might. Yeah, I was the type. Was. I found the entrance 3 days later. It was deep in the woods, well off any trail, half buried under moss and fallen branches. The door was rusted, a slab of metal with a faded U.S. property stencil barely visible. A smaller plaque underneath said Station 13G. The latch had been forced open a long time ago, probably the 70s or 80s, judging by the state of the padlock. Getting in was easy. I had my flashlight, a backpack, and my trusty crowbar. The first room was small, just a dusty entryway with a map of the bunker bolted to the wall. The air was stale, heavy. It smelled faintly metallic, like old blood. The bunker itself was bigger than I'd expected. A long hallway stretched out in front of me, lined with doors on either side. Each door was labeled with something cryptic. Storage 1B, quarantine, lab access. Most were locked, and I didn't want to waste time trying to pry them open. I went deeper. That's when I found the first weird thing. The lights in the bunker still worked. Not all of them. Most flickered, casting long, jittery shadows across the walls. But the fact that any of them worked was strange. This place had been abandoned for decades. There was no power source that I could see, no generator hum. And yet, every few feet, another weak fluorescent bulb buzzed to life above me, as if the bunker wanted to guide me forward. That's when the headache started. It was subtle at first, just a dull pressure behind my eyes. I figured it was the stale air, or maybe mold spores kicking up from the dust. But by the time I reached what looked like the central lab, a large circular room with observation windows, I could barely focus. The buzzing lights overhead felt too loud, like they were drilling into my skull. I tried to shake it off, but then I noticed something strange. The windows, they didn't reflect me. At first, I thought it was just the glass. Maybe it was coated with something, or too dirty. But when I moved closer, I realized the reflection was there. It just wasn't right. It was me, but it wasn't. My movements were slower in the glass, like there was a lag. When I tilted my head to the side, the reflection followed a second later, just a hair too late. I waved. It waved back. Then it smiled. I didn't. That's when everything went to hell. The walls started pulsing like they were breathing. The lights flickered faster, strobing in and out of sync. And the sound, God, the sound. It was this high-pitched whine, rising and falling like a distant scream, but inside my skull.
I turned to leave, but the hallway wasn't the same. Every corner I turned led somewhere new, corridors branching off in impossible directions, doors where there shouldn't have been any. And then I saw them, reflections, but not in windows anymore, in the air itself. Versions of me, standing at the end of every hallway. Some had darker eyes, some had wider smiles, some didn't seem to breathe at all.
They started walking toward me, their movements jerky and wrong, like broken puppets. I ran. The halls twisted impossibly, the floor beneath me growing slick with some kind of dark, oily substance that seemed to crawl up the walls. My headache was screaming now, and the air tasted like metal and chemicals. Through the chaos, I spotted something carved into the wall. They made us look. Don't breathe the air we never left. The footsteps behind me got closer, dozens of boots on concrete, all slightly out of sync. I could hear my own voice, distorted and wrong, calling out from every direction. My flashlight died. My phone showed security footage of myself running, but not alone. Something was running beside me in the footage, something wearing my face, but moving all wrong. I was lost, trapped, surrounded by copies of myself that weren't quite right. The darkness was closing in, and I could feel cold hands, my own hands, reaching for me. That's when I saw it, a crack of natural light. Not from the entrance I'd come through, but from a partially collapsed section of wall. Daylight, real daylight. I ran for it, throwing myself through the gap. Concrete scraped my arms, tore my clothes, but I didn't care. I crawled through dirt and roots until finally, I burst out into the forest. I ran until my legs gave out. That was 3 months ago. I wish I could say it ended there, that I just got lucky and escaped. But something came back with me. It starts with reflections, in windows, in mirrors, in the screen of my phone. My movements are always just a little bit off, just a fraction of a second too late. Sometimes I catch my reflection smiling when I'm not. The headaches never went away. They get worse when I'm alone, when it's quiet. Sometimes I hear whispers that sound like my own voice, but distorted, wrong, like they're coming from inside my skull. I see things in my peripheral vision, shapes that look like me, standing perfectly still, watching. When I turn to look, they're gone. But I know they're there. I don't sleep much anymore. Can't risk looking at my reflection in the dark. Can't risk seeing what's really looking back. I keep moving. New motels every night. Never stay in one place too long, because sometimes, in the middle of the night, I hear footsteps outside my door, perfectly in sync with my own heartbeat. They're following me, the other versions of me, waiting. And sometimes in my darkest moments, I wonder if I really escaped at all. Maybe this is just another room in Station 13G. Maybe I never left. Maybe I never will. So let me give you some advice. If you ever find a bunker in the woods, if you ever see a sign that says Station 13G, don't go in. Don't even think about it. Because some things are better left buried. And some things never let you leave.